In today's Gospel readings, we heard a few pericope that pointed to some very, very basic things in the Christian life. Faith, trust in God, reliance on God, and looking towards those things which are important, looking toward the realities. Paul Tillich, the Prussian theologian, used to use a phrase quite frequently. He spoke about our ultimate concern. Each one of us, I think, must have some sort of concerns. We worry about many things, and sometimes it's necessary to do so. We often have to make provisions. We have to take care of things. But what are our really ultimate concerns? What are the major things we think about and hope for and expect? Well, not long ago I was talking with somebody who brought up the question of the afterlife. And in a later email to me, he said, I don't know anything about it, but I hope, and I guess this is really a basic concern with me. Is there an afterlife? Will we continue to live after death? Will we see or be with those who have gone before us? What is the afterworld life like? Well, I agree that can be a very important concern. And maybe if we're to take all those different worries and thoughts and hopes and aspirations in this area which we have, if we were to take them and try to just brush them aside and come down to one question and say, what really is our ultimate hope? What do we really want and hope and look for and need? That's a difficult question to answer, but it's a difficult thing to define. And I suspect if we kept searching at it, there would unfortunately be many people who would have to say, I don't know. But maybe keep on waiting, keep on searching, and many people would very possibly then answer, I want to exist, I want to be, I don't want to be wiped out in death. I want to know that I'm always going to be there, that I'm going to go on. Or in other words, I suppose we could say, we're looking for faith. We're looking for something which is going to be eternal and lasting. Now, turn to the celebration which we hold today. The tradition of the entrance of the Theotokos into the temple. Now, this is something, of course, for which there's no real historical basis. It doesn't occur in the scripture. There's nothing really to point towards it. But there is this tradition that the young girl, Miriam, or Mary as we call her, as a child was taken to live in the temple. And there she was dedicated to God. And she grew up in the temple with the express purpose, maybe not known to many people, maybe known to no one, but she grew up in the temple with the express purpose that her life was to be dedicated to the birth of the Messiah, the anointed, the Christ. In other words, this young child who was taken to the temple and grew up, she was set aside and focused on only one thing, God and His purpose. And for that child then, whether she knew it or not, there's really only one goal, one thing of importance, and that was God and the will of God. Keeping faith and being dedicated, setting aside all other things which we would consider important, and focused on God Himself. Focused on the Creator, the creation, the whole realm of existence which had been created by God. And that's what our Lord taught. Our Lord, as it were, pointed out of this world. He pointed away from our cares and our concerns. And basically he said, there is but one reality. God and the eternity of God. Just bear that in mind. I'll tell you a story. A few weeks ago, one evening I was sitting talking with a friend, and I mentioned that I'd seen there was a new book had just been published by a very prominent scientist. And the book was sort of intended to be a summation of all that he had learned and all that he knew from the experience of his scientific career. It had a very appealing title. It was called, and well, it still is called, Brief Answers to the Big Questions. I was curious, sort of, and this other person said, well, I'd like to have that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll order it, and then you take it and read it, and when you're finished, give it back to me. Okay. So the book came a few weeks later, and I took it home, and it was a fairly small book, not very thick, about 200 pages. And as I said, it was called Brief Answers to the Big Questions. Well, we all have, I think, these big questions. Is there a God? Where did everything come from? How did the universe come into existence? What's the future? What can we do? What's our future? Will we survive? Etc., etc., etc. And they're interesting questions. So I sat down one night, opened the book, and started to read. The introductory sections talked about how important it was to ask these questions and to find answers to them. And it told how the author himself had sought things over the years, and through his training and his knowledge and his understanding had managed to come to certain conclusions. So he's now going to point to the big questions, and he's going to give some answers. The first big question was, is there a God? That was treated in first chapter of about, 15, 20 pages. The second big question was, where did it all come from? How did the universe that we know come into existence? Actually, he went to spoil it out a little bit backwards. He answered the first question, is there a God? He answered that first. Then he went to the creation of the universe. Where did that come from? I prefer to look at it the other way. Where did it all come from? Where did the universe come from? Well, he raised a few thoughts. One thought has been fairly prominent in the minds of many people over the centuries. And there has often been the idea that the universe never came from anything. It was always there. Well, that one always used to puzzle me. Because now I would think of the universe, this area, which isn't big, which isn't very big, which isn't enormous. It's beyond all description. Think of this for a second. If we could somehow get into a spaceship and head straight out into space, and if we were to say to ourselves, we've got lots of time, we're going to go to the very end of the universe and see what lies beyond, or see how it ends. Well, we get an awful surprise. How many millions and billions and whatever comes after that, trillions or whatever they are, how many of those miles would we travel, and how many years would we do it? We'd never have the time. We'd never be able to reach the end of the universe. It's so incredibly enormous. We'd never know how it ends. We'd never have an answer to that big question. Where did it all come from? Oh, wait. There is an answer, because the answer given to that question was that basically the universe was self-generated. It created itself. Energy can somehow act without anything to guide it. It can act and bring a whole universe into being. And if somebody asks how, then the answer can be given by the Big Bang. Now, I have to admit something. I've always liked this Big Bang theory. Thinking of this. There was a time when there was nothing. There wasn't even emptiness. No, I'm sorry, there wasn't a time, because there was no time. Before anything ever began, there was nothing, not even emptiness, not even space. And then this Big Bang took place, no larger than a pinpoint or even smaller, and from that came forth everything. It's a rather dramatic and colorful image, and it's worth pondering. And it can certainly raise the tendency to ponder and to ask, and more important, to wonder. Think what the psalmist who says, when I consider the heavens, the works of thy hands, and he looks up at the heavens and is overwhelmed by everything. There's the Big Bang. I like it. What caused it? Nothing. Well, no, maybe nothing. We don't know what caused it. Oh, we might ask. Maybe the Big Bang was caused by, you know who? Whom we call God. No. No. You can't say that. Why? Well, there is no God. Oh. How do you know there's no God? How do you know God didn't create the universe? Oh, we know that because the universe was caused by the Big Bang. Well, how do you know God didn't cause the Big Bang? No, the Big Bang proves there is no God. And that's the point where the questioner scratches his head and says, oh, the heck with it, nothing we can do about that. everything that exists, this whole magnificent universe, stretching for distances which we can't even possibly imagine. All this came into being by itself. And not only this great unbounded universe, but all the smaller, sometimes tiny entities within it. The two moose who one day last September blocked the highway, so I had to stop my car and wait for them to move on. They'd just been married, I think they're man and wife. They looked awfully contented. They must have somehow, many, in fact about 15 billion years ago, there came into existence the seeds, the sperm, whatever you want to call them, from what those two moose eventually came from. The various viruses which sometimes float around and make us sick, they came from a long process where nothing caused them. Well, that's where my mind stops. And I say, no, this cannot be. But let's go back to the first question in this book, which the author had said, is there a God? He concluded, no, there is no God. We know that because everything comes into existence by itself. And he says there's no God, there's no afterlife. All we have is this one life which we have here now. So let's enjoy contemplating the great mysteries that exist and let it go. We don't need a God, he says. Years and years ago, centuries ago, people, men and women, looked at the universe and they asked, where did it come from? And they had to have an answer. So they came up with the idea that things came into existence because a God or gods, and there are many, creation stories in ancient mythology, a God or God created everything. But now, well, no, we can't say thank God. Now, thank our human minds. We don't need those anymore. Because now we can rely on the wonders of science. I got nothing against science, by the way. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think it's something which hopefully will develop and shape our futures. And if I dare say this, how shape our futures towards the way in which the Creator must surely envisage us. But many people will give a sigh of relief, and they will say, we don't need a God anymore. Because now we know where things came from. We know that there wasn't a creator. We know that things can come into existence by themselves. We don't have to fear. Somebody else once said to me, and they were certainly right, that for so many centuries, the religious establishments have kept people in line by using fear. And it's true sometimes, no? Our teaching has told people, now you've got to be good little boys and girls, or else you'll be punished eternally. That fear is all gone, people say. But then, sometimes, and I suspect not just sometimes, I suspect probably quite frequently, somebody comes to the end of his life or her life and says to himself or herself, oh, that's it. It's all over. I'm finished. I'm going to be gone for good. And actually the scientist did say the same thing, that he knew that when his end came, that was it. There was no more of them. I don't know how many people are able to say that and be contented. Probably not too many, because there's so many instances. So it becomes the end of the life. And then comes the question, is there anything beyond this? Am I going to still survive somehow? And then, despite all the bravado and determination that they know, there comes out again the hope, maybe, hopefully, there is something after this. But in the very first chapter of that book, that author concluded, there is no God. And this was the great knowledge and wisdom and understanding which he had gained. You know, if we could go back somehow to the time of our Lord and just maybe ask almost anyone we met in the street, do you think there is a God? He would probably look at you and say, of course. There's not even any question about that. Today, we are living in what's often called a secular world. And this is praised. Oh, we're away from these old-fashioned fables and myths and old wives' tales about gods and beyond and supernatural. Now we know the truth. Okay? Fine, if we want to say that, if we want to really believe that. So now we look back at this tradition, Theotokos, dedicated to God, and not only the Theotokos. How many prophets, martyrs, saints, how many of those had their lives completely dedicated to God, completely sure and completely aware that yes, there is a God, there is a reality beyond what we can see. Oh, by the way, there's another proof that there's no God, that there's no Creator. Because before the universe was created, there was no space and there was no time. So there's no place there could have been a Creator. And so we can say all the more confidently, I know that there is no God. And you know, that's a sort of boastful, bravado statement which so often people can make in the modern world. I know that there is no God because scientists can tell me different. But you know, there's something interesting. Not all scientists can tell you that. Some of the greatest scientists realized that no matter how far human knowledge can go, or thinks it can go, there always comes the point where one is to say, what caused that? Once there was a series of lectures which I didn't even know about, but I found that about the very last one. Astronomer given a series of lectures on the universe, the very last one I went to, the only one I went to actually, was dealing with the question, where did it all come from? How did it happen? And the answer there was the Big Bang. And somebody raised the question, what caused and the lecturer said, well, I can't tell you for certain, but I can make a suggestion. And they flashed a slide on the screen. And that slide shows completely black background. And against that black background, there was this hand pointing down like Michelangelo's fresco in the Sistine Chapel. And he said, that's what caused the Big Bang. Some scientists can say, and some individuals can say with them, in fact, many individuals can say with them, I know, but there is no God. But we can say, with Job and I'm sure with so many others throughout history, I know that my Redeemer liveth. The young child who was taken from the temple to be raised, to become the Theotokos, the mother of the Messiah. There's a symbol of faith. There's a symbol of knowledge. There's a symbol of the absolute reality. So in this day and age, we have the choice. We can say with the modern secularist, we don't need all this religious nonsense. Or we can say with Christ, here is God. Here is the reality. Which of those answers is going to be more satisfying? Which of those answers is going to eventually win out? No? That we have to wait and see. But I have a very strong suspicion that all of the products and the results of human speculation and human attempts to explain everything away will eventually give way before the one being who can say, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.